excited about what we're going to hear today. The title we have here, Time, the Most Precious Gift. So, wir sind sehr glücklich, dass wir heute Krishna Premarupa mit uns haben. Er wird die Klasse geben. Er ist in den frühen 2000er Jahren zum Krishna-Bewusstsein gekommen, hat sich vorher in ganz vielen anderen Richtungen auch umgeschaut und bringt deswegen sehr viel Wissen mit, aus anderen Traditionen auch, und hat sich aber in den letzten 20 Jahren im Bhakti-Yoga sehr vertieft, hat 14 Jahre als Tempelpräsident auch hier gedient im Tempel und bald geht es auf zu neuen Ufern und sein Seva wird sich mehr über internationale Gebiete auch erstrecken und vielleicht werden wir nicht mehr so oft sehen, deswegen sind wir sehr glücklich, wann immer hier ist und wollen das wertschätzen. So, der Titel der heutigen Vorlesung ist Zeit, das wertvollste Geschenk. Without further ado, I hand over to Krishna Premarupa. Genau, für diejenigen, die gerne eine Übersetzung hätten, wir würden da hinten in der Ecke von Englisch auf Deutsch übersetzen.
Hare Krishna. Welcome also from my side. I'll just sing one song and then we start with the presentation on this topic.
And if we can just maybe come a little closer so that there's space when there's guests coming.
Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dharati Sarvadantikam Vancha Kalpatarudhyascha Kripasindubhyascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna. Today's topic is, as we heard, time. In Sanskrit we call it Kala Chakra. And yeah, I just thought it's an interesting topic. And also it's actually quite interesting how we, time is something we all experience every day and we live it, but at the same time we are not so much aware actually what time is, isn't it? So we try to just reflect a bit about what actually is time, what is the scriptures, what do the scripture say about time, and also how time should be spent in the best way. That's the topic. And I will start, let's see, prepare a little presentation. Yeah, these are the topics we will speak about. Maybe Ingeborg, could you help me and turn the computer so that I can also see it?
Ah, yes.
That'd be great. Wow. Fantastic. Alright. So these will be the topics. So what is time? We'll talk a bit about time measurement, how time is measured, then the value of time and beyond time, which is our goal. And we'll start with a shloka, Sanskrit text from the Bhagavad Purana or the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is quite an interesting text. Ayurharati Vaipungsam Udyan Astam Chayan Aso Tasyarte Yadkshano Nitya Uttama Shloka Vartaya. The translation is, both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. So here's two things described. First of all, that time is that the time factor has a certain effect, and one of the effects is that it takes away our life. That's one aspect of time. While time is passing, our life becomes shorter. And another thing here expressed is, but those who utilize the time by hearing about the Supreme Lord, then the time influence is not there actually. And we will explain why. We can explain it right now, in the sense that because those who are always absorbed in God, in Krishna, and preparing themselves for eternal life, then the time factor has no influence, in the sense that at the end of the life they may go back to Godhead, to the spiritual world, where they have an eternal life. But those who are not interested in God, those who are not hearing about God, they're just, spending time in this world, and at the end of the life they just have to take birth again and again and again. So let's just read a little bit from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of our movement, he gave some commentary on this text. So Prabhupada says, this verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. Time and tide wait for no man. So the time indicated by the sunrise and the sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realizing identification of spiritual values. Even a fraction of the duration of life wasted cannot be compensated by any amount of gold. Human life is simply awarded to a living entity Jiva, so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. A living being, especially a human being, is seeking happiness because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. But he is vainly seeking happiness in a material atmosphere. A living being is constitutionally a spiritual spark of the complete whole, and his happiness can be perfectly perceived in spiritual activities. So, Srila Prabhupada makes the point, several points, that the human form of life is extremely rare. That's one thing. Just as in last week, we heard in the Sunday class also how very rarely one actually attains a human body. I mean, of course, we are here in Krishna temple, we believe in reincarnation, there's different lives, and understanding that the soul is transforming, traveling through many different species of life, it's not so easily attained to get this human form, because there's many other species. You take birth as an animal, as a plant. So once you get a human form of life, this is very, very rare, and then that should be used properly. And here it says that the living being actually is searching for happiness. That's Ananda Vyasa, that's kind of a very natural thing, that everyone is looking for happiness. And why is that so? Because originally we are full of happiness. Satchit Ananda, it says. We are eternal, we are full of knowledge and full of bliss. That's the state of the soul. The original soul, as a soul, we are eternal, we have always existed, and we always will exist. And we are full of knowledge, transcendental spiritual knowledge, and we are full of bliss. But coming into this material world, we have been covered. That means we have lost our true identity, and we identify with this body, and we forgot about our eternal identity. So the thing is, although originally we are full of happiness, naturally we are searching for this happiness, but we are looking at the wrong place. And Srila Prabhupada gives several examples. Prabhupada says that originally we all love God, we all love Krishna, we all have a natural loving relationship to Krishna, but we have forgotten it. And it doesn't matter where we are searching or looking, we only find true happiness in our relationship with God. An example is given like a child is crying, a child is crying. And no matter what you do, the child will only be happy if you give it to the mother, because the child has to go to the mother, that's why it's crying. Or another example.
But when the child has no mother?
Then it goes to the father, or to
when there's not
someone will take care. Someone will take care of the child. Those has a main connection.
But if he's not a nice person, then the child cannot not cry for someone.
That's true. But this is just an analogy, in principle, most children they have a mother, mostly, and or someone who's taking care of them, and the mother, only when the child is with the mother, then the child feels happy. And another example is with the fish. If you have a fish, if you take the fish out of the water, no matter what you do with the fish, probably gives the example, you can give him some nice drink or whatever you do, but the fish will not be happy. Why? Because it's out of the water. In fact, the fish will just how do you say in English? Flap, and at some point will die, because it's very unnatural outside of the water. So similarly, the soul who is not in the spiritual atmosphere with Krishna, if you take the soul out and put it here in the material world, the soul can't be happy in this world. Only if the soul is again connected with the spiritual reality, the soul will find peace. So we are searching for happiness, but we only find happiness in connection with the spiritual energy. That's one thing, and that's why the human form of life is rare, because as a human we can think about these things, we can reflect about these things, and we can make a conscious endeavor to actually again connect with God. That's yoga, that connection with God, and that's the goal of life. And that's why it says here that by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the life duration, but if someone is searching or making endeavor to connect with God, then actually he connects with the eternal, and that's why there is no problem. But if you don't connect with the eternal, then your life is just wasted. Okay, that's the intro. Like the text that we chose from the scripture. So let's go a little deeper into this topic. And next time when you see a nice sunset, you can remember I'm closer to death. One more day. Closer. Usually we see it's very romantic. Oh, it's so nice. But if you look at it from a different ways to look at it. But if you look from a more sober point of view, okay, I come closer to death. So, okay, what is time? Actually, as we said in the beginning, time is something quite mysterious. So let's try to understand what time actually is a little more. Okay, let's read this from here. These are, okay, let's see what the dictionary says about time. Dictionary says, the measured or measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues, or a continuum that is measured in terms of events which succeed one after from past to present to future, or the part of existence that is measured in minutes, days, years, etc., or this process considered as a whole. Okay, that's the dictionary definition of time. I don't know whether it makes so much sense, but that's time according to the dictionary. It's an existence. We exist, but then this existence can be measured, and there is a past, there's a present, and a future, and somehow we call this time. And of course, this could be a whole seminar which can go days, but in art, in literature, in mythology, in religion, in philosophy, human beings have tried to understand what is time. And this is a picture from Andali, the melting clocks, which is a very famous art of peace, and it also demonstrates how the time factor is very powerful, and more powerful than humans, and actually we are controlled by time. Or in Greek mythology, there is the Chronos, is the personification of time. It's interesting, the similarity with Yamaraj or with the death. We see how you say it in English? The Sensemann, yeah, that's German. The Sensemann, and he also has a sand clock. How you say it? Sandur.
Who is this?
That's Chronos.
That's Chronos.
Yeah, they're from the Greek mythology. I mean, as I said, you could just to give you an idea. Humans have been trying to understand what is time. There's different ideas of time. But since we are in a Hare Krishna temple, let's see what Krishna says about time, right? So, in the Bhagavad Gita, of course, we're not going into the details, but Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, and it takes place on a battlefield just before a war. And while the conversation is going on, Krishna at some point reveals himself in his universal form. It means he shows his divine opulences, that he actually is God. And this form is quite fearsome. So, and we will just hear more about this aspect. But in the Gita itself, there's basically 5 topics that are discussed. These are the five main topics. In Gita we hear about the Atma, the soul. We hear about Prakriti, the material nature. We hear about karma, activities in this world, about Kala, time, and about Ishvara, God. If you break down the Gita, Bhagavad Gita has 700 shlokas, and if you break it down, these are the 5 topics that are, from different point of view, they are discussed. It's described the soul. I'm a jiva as a living entity, and the soul, and I'm traveling through this different species of life. And as a soul, I'm eternal, and that which dies is the body. And then the material nature is described, how the material nature is functioning. The 3 modes of material nature are described. There is different energies that are working. And then the activities which bring happiness, and activities which bring suffering. And of course God, our relationship with Krishna. But then there is also this time factor is described. What is time? And that's the topic for today. What is time? So in Sanskrit, time is also called, as mentioned, Kala Chakra. It's the wheel of time. It's constantly moving. And what is actually this time factor? Krishna explains it. Actually, Krishna, he is, God is time. Or in other words, time is a representation of God in this world. So time is also God. And when Krishna, as we mentioned, shows this universal form, this form also was quite fearful. It showed many different faces, and all these soldiers who were there on the battlefield, they were actually entering into the mouth of one of these four faces and were crushed between the teeth. So Arjuna was afraid. Oh my God, what is this form that you're showing me? Who are you? Arjuna is asking. And what is Krishna replying? Krishna says, Kalos me. Krishna says, time I am. I am that time. The great destroyer of the world, and I have come here to destroy all people. It's kind of wow. This is not the kind of form that we like to worship, or when we offer praise, it's not the kind of form we want to approach when we talk about God. But that's also an aspect of God, that God is, in this world, God is the time factor. And one of the main nature of time is that the time destroys. And that's just how this material world works. Because that's the difference between the material world and the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, everything is eternal. Everything is full of happiness. Everything is full of knowledge. But in this material world, it's different. Because the material world is just a reflection. It's not the original thing. And here, everything is temporary. Everything is, passing by. Everything is full of miseries and difficulties and full of ignorance. That's just how it is. There is other descriptions in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We find description. Eternal time is the primary source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in material creation. And of course, we could go here more into the details of all of this, but the point is that time is a representation of God in this world. So whenever time is passing, whenever we think about time, we can also remember Krishna, because Krishna is manifesting as time in this world. And Prabhupada says in the purport, no one knows where time began and where it ends, and it's time only which can keep a record of creation, maintenance and destruction. This time factor is the material cause of creation and is therefore a self-expansion of the personality of Godhead. Time is considered the impersonal feature of the Lord. So time is kind of an impersonal form how God exists in this world. Okay, so these are some thoughts about what the time is. So how is time measured? Of course, since time immemorial, human beings, different civilizations have always tried to measure time. All the different cultures, they have created calendars according to the stars, astronomy. Then we have calendar basically measures time in a longer space. We also have our plans, we do this and that. But then we have the hours, which is the daily measurement. And for this, there was some clocks nowadays. We have this Swiss watches. So, but we are always trying to kind of measure the time. And it's interesting that in Vedic culture, there is an amazing way time is measured, also in a very large scale. And I think in the Guinness Book of Records, these measurements of Vedic ancient culture is given as the longest time measurement that humans have ever come up with. This is actually revealed a reality. But and we won't go into the details of all of this, but just to give you an idea, in Vedic understanding we have cycles. There is a cycle, like we have summer, soon autumn is coming, there is winter, there is again spring, and then again summer. So there's a cycle of the seasons. So similarly, the whole cosmic creation, the whole world, is also going through different cycles. These are the yugas. There's the golden age, the silver, the bronze, and the iron age. and bad news. We are in the Iron Age. And Iron Age means a very dark time, a very difficult time. And of course, we don't need the Vedic scriptures to understand this. We just look in the newspapers and we can understand we are in bad time or difficult times. But that's reality. That's why the world is so crazy, because we are in a period which is a very difficult time. It's Kali Yuga. And this Kali Yuga here, it goes for 432,000 years. This Kali Yuga will last. And so far 5,000 years have passed. So it just started. And then, as we said, there is these 4 cycles. So the Kali Yuga, there's Dvapara, Treta, and Satya Yuga. And if you, like, one cycle of these 4 yugas is called a Divya Yuga, and this lasts more than 4 million years. Okay, 4 million years have passed, and this is one Divya Yuga. And if you have 71 of these Divya Yugas, then you have one Manvantar, this is 300 million years. And if you have 14 of these Manvantars, you come to one Kalpa, and this is 4 billion years. And Kalpa is just one day of Lord Brahma. Brahma is the creator of the world, and Brahma lives for 100 years. If you calculate everything together, you come to 311 trillion years of lifespan of Lord Brahma. So it's like amazing time measurements that are given in the Vedic scriptures. Yeah, it's also interesting. This is a picture from a pastime when Lord Brahma wanted to test Lord Krishna, and just wanted to mention that in a different, like we are here on the planet Earth, but there is the heavenly planets, different dimension, and there is sometimes also a time difference. Like here on the Earth, we have time difference, right? Like there is different time in India, different time in America. So similarly, if you move up and down, also in different dimensions, there is also different times. Like in this pastime, so those who know the pastime, Lord Brahma just for a moment went away to see where are the calves and the boys. When he came back on the earth, a whole year passed by. So that's also there, there's different. But interesting enough is that although time is actually absolute, the time is like it, but how we experience time is quite relative. Here it says, time is slow when you wait, time is fast when you're late, time is deadly when you're sad, time is short when you're happy, time is endless when you're in pain, time is long when you feel bored. Every time is determined by your feelings and your psychological condition, not by the clocks. Kind of an interesting statement, and I think we all agree to that, for me the time goes very, very slow when I'm sitting at the, laying on this chair of the dentist, right? I think in March I went to the dentist, and I was, time, as if time would have stopped, it was so long, painful. But if you're in holidays, like 2 weeks are gone so fast, what's happening? So it's the same time, but the way we experience it is different, because in that sense time can be quite relative. Yeah, so time, it has a lot to do with what's going on up here in our mind when we talk about time. Okay, the value of time, that's basically the main point that we want to do and talk about. Time is extremely valuable. Janaka Pandit, which was a great scholar in the ancient Indian time, he made this point that even a slight fraction of time cannot be purchased with millions of gold coins, and therefore even a moment of time lost without profits must be calculated as the greatest loss in life. Like, okay, now we are, today is the 21st of August, the year 2022, and it's 4 o'clock, and what is it, 32 minutes, and this moment is over. And it's forever, it's gone. That moment, when I just started the sentence, it's over. And whatever you do, you can't get it back. And even if you come with millions of gold coins, as Janaka Pandit says, or with millions of US dollars or Swiss francs, or with your twin or credit card, but you can't get it back. It's gone. And in that way, time is very precious. Therefore it says, the greatest gift you can give someone is in your time. Because when you give your time, you're giving a portion of your life that you will never get back. And so we can understand that time is something very valuable. Therefore we talk about time management. It's a big thing. So many things to do. How can I deal with all of this? How do I manage my time that I get the most out of it? And that's a great art. Some people are just very good in doing many things in a short time, and some people just lose themselves. Sometimes you want to make the time stand still, or time goes too fast. It can be very difficult. But often we also kind of kill time. It's interesting. In German, there is this, the term we say, Zeitvertreib. Zeitvertreib. But vertreib means to, chase someone away. So basically, we chase time away. As if we have too much time. And of course, Zeitvertreib in English we say pastime or play or game, and it's defined as something, we spend the time in something which gives us pleasure. But the German word is much more correct. It basically says, this is when you just, chase the time away. and sometimes we have so much time that we even, we tied totschlagen. When we kill the time. You have to say in English, kill the time? Or we want to kill the time?
Kind of, yeah.
But you just said that time is very valuable. So how is it that we want to chase time away or want to kill the time? So it seems that there's some problem there. In the Srimad Bhagavatam again, this is from the 7th canto, here's Prahlad Maharaj speaking. Prahlad is a 5-year-old boy, but he's very wise and he has a lot of knowledge, so he shares with his schoolmates. He talks about the meaning of life and how even in a young age one should practice spiritual life. In this shloka he says, every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years, but for one who cannot control the senses, half of those years are completely lost because at night he sleeps 12 hours, being covered by ignorance. Therefore such a person has a lifetime of only 50 years. Okay, I don't know who is sleeping 12 hours a day, maybe not. That you really need to be covered by the mode of tamaguna, ignorance, to sleep 12 hours. But even if you say that you sleep 8 hours, still it's a large, if you imagine you live 100 years and every day you sleep 8 hours or 7 hours, a lot of your time you're just laying in your bed and snoring. It's a lot of time. Of course you can argue, well, you have to sleep, you must sleep. Yes, sure. And that's not the point. It's not that we say you don't sleep anymore. Although some saints do that, and we'll hear about that also. But the point is that to understand how precious time is and how much time is actually gone by so many things which are not directly related to the aim of life, which is self-realization. So Prahlad is going on, he says also that in the tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years just playing. Similarly, in boyhood, engaged in sporting and playing, and one passes another 10 years. This way, 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years wastefully. Quite strong words. This is Shastra, or sadhu, sometimes they speak strong. Why did you do that? In order to wake us up a little bit. Of course you could say, well, but when children play, it's not wasting time, it's natural, it's part of the development. And people also in old age, they happily remember their good life. But the fact is that, when we talk about self-realization, the time that you have to consciously connect with God, to read scriptures, to meditate, to do something really, really that which is most important in life, you don't have so much time for that.
But what if somebody wants to do it but he can't, because if somebody's invalid or if he's disabled, he can't do it, but he can't engage in material activities, but he would want to, but he can't because of the physical condition,
Yes.
for example.
Then what's about
So
that?
what do you say then?
I mean, here it's about using the time for spiritual activity. Even if someone is invalid, he still can perform spiritual activities. Of course, if you have a body which works, you can do practical something. But even if you can't do anything with your body, because spirituality is all about consciousness, you still can do something in your mind. You still can worship, or you can still meditate. But the point here is just that in old age, we are not so, maybe not so active or not so vital to do many things.
Yeah.
There is only a very limited time that is given to us where we actually can do something meaningful. And then Prabhupada continues, and that time we also waste because we're too much attached to our family life, to our enjoyment, and to try to have a happy material life. And this time is also wasted, and then life is over. And then we take birth again, and we take birth again and again. So again, this is just some reflection, some thoughts, how valuable time is, and how we usually spend time with so many things that are not directly related with spirituality. So that's why again, when you see the beautiful romantic sunset, one day again is gone. This is an interesting poster here. That's actually from my room. I got one. My life in weeks. Okay, so the idea is that according to science, an average person lives about 80 years, a bit more than 80 years. And so the 80 years means approximately 4,000 weeks. That means all of us got about 4,000 weeks to live. And today is Sunday, 1 week already passed away. And then, and then here it is, you can give in your birthday. My birthday is the 3rd February of 1977. And then it automatically calculates and fills in the files here. So you can see I already, half of my life is already gone. More than half of my life, because I'm 45 now. So more than half of my life is gone. And I now have this poster, and this evening I will fill in this little hole there, which is white. I will fill it with black, and then I know 1 week is gone. This is really pretty depressing. But that's the thing, like someone who wants to enjoy material life, someone who wants to enjoy life, you have to forget about death, You have to, don't remember that time is temporary. Don't remember that there is an end. You just want to live carefully, happily. But someone who is spiritually, seriously practicing, he always wants to remember death. In the Middle Age, people, they used to put a skull or like a dead skull, you say, like a Totenkopf on the desk. Like there were many philosophers and writers. Why they put or sometimes a white cloth, like the Totentuch. Like the clothes they used to wrap dead bodies. Why do they do that? It's quite morbid, isn't it? But I felt better I had a poster like this than a skull on my desk. But it's the same. Has the same effect. The effect is that I look at my wardrobe and the poster is hanging. Okay, again 1 week has passed. Maybe I should do something useful with my life. And I also start to reflect, what I want to do in my life? What are really my ambitions, my goals? What do I want to do with my life? And maybe I should start to become a bit more serious in my spiritual practice, like that. And that's a symptom of someone who is very mature in spiritual life. This is from the Nectar of Devotion. It says, he's always anxious to utilize his time in the devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always 24 hours a day without deviation. That's a symptom of someone who is very spiritually enthusiastic. Actually, this is a description of the pattern of Baba. there's different stages of spiritual advancement, and Baba means someone who is in love with God, and he's he experiences deep ecstatic emotion in love of God. And then there's different symptoms of such a person. Like let me see here. He's completely detached from material attraction. He does not long for any material respect. He always has hope that Krishna will give him his blessings. He's very eager to serve the Lord. He's very attached to chanting the names of the Lord. He loves to speak about Krishna, and he's very much attached to live in holy places. And one symptom is also that he's always anxious to utilize time in devotional service. It's a symptom of someone who is very advanced. He always wants to use his time properly. And we have some examples of great personalities. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a great spiritual teacher, and his son, Bhaktisiddhanta, was the guru of our guru. So it's you can say the grandfather of the Hare Krishna movement, is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we have some. He was quite a responsible man. He was a magistrate, like a judge in the court, and also he was in charge of the Jagannath Puri temple, the greatest temple in North India. He was in charge of, and he was a family man. I think 12 children, wife, 12 children, and this responsible job. And I listened to his daily schedule. So how he engaged his time, it's like, wow. Here it starts with in the evening, it starts at 8 o'clock. From 8 to 10 o'clock, at 8 o'clock he went to sleep, okay? 8 o'clock he went to sleep, till 10. He slept for 2 hours. And then he again got up. And then from 10 to 4 o'clock, 6 hours, he would write his books and his transcendental songs. He's known for having written hundreds of books and also many beautiful devotional songs. And that's what he was doing between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, basically the whole night. He was writing. Then 4 to 4:30, a short break. Then 4:30 to 7 o'clock, for 2.5 hours he would meditate, japa meditation, chanting the names of God. Then from 7 to 7:30, he did his correspondence, his emails and WhatsApp. Of course, that time it was not there, but I guess he was writing letters. But that was half an hour from 7 to 7:30. And then he went spent 2 hours to study the scriptures, the holy text, from 7:30 to 9:30. Then 9:30, he went to the bathroom, took a little breakfast. His breakfast was half liter of milk, 2 chapatis. Chapatis are a little bread, and a little fruits. That's it. Then 10 to 1 o'clock, for 3 hours, he served at the Gerichtshof, at the court. Then 1 hour break, and then again from 2 to 5, another 3 hours work at the court. Then he came home, 5 o'clock, and then again 2 hours working on Sanskrit translation from Sanskrit into Bengal. 7 o'clock, again bath, and evening like dinner. Usually again half liter of milk, 2 chapatis, and a little rice. And then he went to sleep. And that's
Every
it.
day?
Every day. That was his daily schedule. So you missed the lunch. There was no lunch mentioned. There was only breakfast, which is fruit and bread, and in the evening a little bit. Okay, he worked. Of course, you could ask, when did he spend time with his children and his wife? It wasn't mentioned here. Only Sanskrit, writing, meditation. But he was so much absorbed, and he was really good in time management. And similar to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, especially in the last 12 years of his life, he traveled 14 times around the world. He was constantly traveling, from one continent to the next, constantly traveling. But what he did, whenever he came down from an airplane, he asked, what is the time? He adjusts his clock, and then he just continued his routine. And that's amazing. You know, like when we have a 12-hour flight, we have a complete jet lag. We need a whole day to recover. And he was a 70-year-old man, traveling all the time. And whenever he arrived somewhere, adjusting the clock and just went with his program. And his program was similar to Dr. Otaku. He went to bed at 10 and got up at 12. And he translated books. You know, Prabhupada translated over 80 books in the last 12 years. How did he do that? He did it in the night, when everyone else was sleeping. And so these personalities are so amazing, and they really had the mood of let's not waste any time. You know, we have a mission. We have something important to do here. So that was the mood of these great personalities. This is a famous example. I think most of you know that, right? You know that there is a jar, and we have rocks, pebbles, and sand. And the task is to fill the jar with all these things. What do you put first?
Rock.
Why?
Because then you can prepare the biggest one and then you can prepare the
Yes, look at Pavani. Either you know the example or you're just very intelligent. Maybe both. she's intelligent, you know. So, can you see this screen? Okay. So, if you put first the sand, in other words, the pebble and the stone, the bigger stones don't fit in anymore. Right? If you put first all the sand, then the jar is almost full, and then you put the other stone, it don't fit. You see on the picture, you put sand inside stone, but some stone don't fit. But if you do it the other way around, you put first the bigger stones, then you can fill the sand, because the rest of the sand will naturally go down between. You see? And the point is here that no, the jar stands for our everyday, or our life also, and the big stones stand for our priorities. So there's certain things in life we give priority first, the important things. And then the smaller things, somehow we find it in between. But usually we put first the sand, and we take care of all the important things, and then the most important things don't find time anymore. That's what time management means, to understand what's really important. And what is really important? That's the whole presentation of this afternoon. Krishna is important. No, the other guy has many hands, but actually Vishnu is the one with many hands. He's important. Krishna is important. He's in the center. And that's why we should make sure that our life, that we arrange and organize our life, that God is in the center. He's number one. And everything else we kind of fit in between if it's really needed. But often our mentality is, I have to do this, oh Prabhu, I don't have time. No. Lucas, he's a book distributor. He goes on the street and introduces people to our transcendental literature, trying to help people. And what do people say all the time? No time. No time. No time. People have when it comes to spirituality, I have no time. But that's actually the most important. Okay, so we come to the conclusion, beyond time. The goal of life is to go beyond time and to attain again immortality, to come back to our spiritual original identity. It's interesting, just something on this also. This is from Buddha. The past is already gone, the future is not yet here. There is only one moment for you to live, and that is the present moment, right? That's kind of a common view, that past, it's gone. Future is not yet here, so the only thing is left is the present. And actually, to be mindful it's a super powerful practice. If you're really mindful, if you're really in the present, it's very powerful. And also in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we also have this understanding that, like we have the three gunas, the three energies, Tama, Raja, and Sattva guna. Like to be always in the past is like Tama guna. Like in ignorance, you always lament, oh, previously everything was better, and you kind of with your attention you're in the past. Some people are very anxious about the future. What will happen in the future? This will happen in the future. So you're all in the future. That's passion. You want to achieve something. But sattva guna, goodness, Tugend in Deutsch, is you're here. You're now in the presence. And it's interesting. Some of you maybe know Armin Risi, our Atma Tattva. He has written many books. He gives an interesting picture here. It's in German, but I will explain it. So, Kala, we said that eternal time, and we said that time is like a wheel, but even it's a wheel, the wheel is still somewhere linear, going here on this line here, eternal timeline, and then there is the past. This is the past, and there is the future, right? And here is something in between, and what is this? That's the present. But the present is something very mystical because the present is always over. When you speak about the present, it's always immediately you want to try to catch the present. It's always past. It's constantly moving. But actually, this point, it's like a door or gateway to eternity. Because as in the material world, there is always this past, present, and future. But in the spiritual world, it's only existence. It's only eternity. And how to enter into this eternity? It's through the present. It's only the present moment we can actually connect with the divine. We can connect with eternal. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. It's now. That's why meditation means you're in the present. If you meditate, the most important thing is to be in the present. If you're in the past, if you're in the future, you're not meditating. So, kind of an interesting concept. And as we mentioned before, that this is the beginning shloka that we did not mention, that by the raising and setting of the sun, our lifetime is reduced. But if we actually give time to listen about Krishna, then we can attain eternity. And I did prepare something on hearing, but our time is running out. That's always the thing with the time. I had a few slides and wanted to explain a little bit about the importance of hearing, because this shloka mentioned that how do we use time best? The best way to use time is by hearing about Krishna, chanting Krishna's name, hearing Krishna's glories, associating with the devotees of Krishna, talking about Krishna. That's the best way we can use our time. Why? Because these activities, these spiritual activities, they will give us eternal life. They will free us from the cycle of birth and death and give us entrance in the eternal life. And that's why these are the best activities. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. These were just a few thoughts I wanted to share with you. I hope I didn't waste your time. And of course, you better if you thought, oh, how long he will speak, when this is over, then I did a very bad job. And if the time went very quick, then hopefully I did a good job with this. We do have 5 minutes left. If someone has some comments, realizations, some questions.
I have a question. I wanted to ask, because you said we should live in the present, but also that spiritual beings keep an eye out on the death, which is in the future. So how can these realities coexist?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Yes. The saints, those who really spiritually very conscious, they're all living in the present, and death is in the future. Yeah. But to be really in the presence, it means full awareness. And full awareness means full awareness of the present, yes, but also about the past and the future. Like full awareness, full consciousness means that I see reality as it is. And as long I have such a temporary body made of flesh and bones and all the other aspects, then I know this is temporary. It will, like we have a tin with some, I don't know, ravioli in it. There is a expiry date or something. It says it's good till March 23 and then afterwards it's spoiled. So we got such a date here also, somewhere. These bodies have an expiry date. So to know this is part of knowledge. Actually, Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita that, what is the Sanskrit? Janma? There is a specific line in that to knowledge means to know the Janya Mrityu Chara Yati. Yeah. Jana Mrityu Chara Yati. Chara means old age. The other is sickness. So knowledge means to know in this world that there is always birth, disease, old age, and death. And to be aware of this, to be conscious of this, that's knowledge. So even though you're fully present now, here and yet, but still you have that awareness that I'm a temporary body. Yeah. It's not that you, like the practice of remembering the fact that I will die, this is like a sadhana, like a spiritual practice for those who are not yet completely aware. But we have to remind us. That's why we put a skull on the desk or such a poster, to remind us. But those who are actually fully self-realized and they're fully present, they already have this consciousness always. They already imbibe this realization. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. It was a good question. Yeah.
So, you said that we should make use of our time and all. Many times, like, I don't know about others, but I feel that I want to do so much, but I don't have the time for that. But at the same time,
Interesting, we all have 24 hours. You know, it's not that someone has only 10 hours and someone has. We all have 24 hours.
But don't you think we also feel that self-realization or like a lot of deeper thought comes when we are not so anxious about trying to maximize our time? So maybe when one is already self-realized, as the people you talked about, then they can do all those things. But until we're not at that stage, we probably need to open up our mind a bit more and not try to force fit things into our schedule.
Okay. So you bring up a doubt whether of course, when you hear such a time schedule of these people, how can I do that? I don't think this will be possible. That's natural that we feel like that. Yeah, we can't artificially force. It's interesting, there's this word enthusiasm. And why, I mean, these saintly people, they do so much, and they spend their time so intensely in devotional service and in spiritual activities, because they're so enthusiastic. And the word enthusiastic means in theos. Theos means God. No? They live in God, and because they live in God, they feel so much enthusiasm. They feel so much alive. They feel so much, they have so much love for Krishna. They want to do something for Krishna. They become so active. But we can't artificially do that. Yeah, naturally. Usually, in our stage, normal people, and we are not so enthusiastic. we may be enthusiastic for other things. Yeah, so many material desires, where it's more about me, where I'm the center. I want to enjoy. I want to be. But these people are enthusiastic to serve. They want to give. We are usually enthusiastic to take, but they are enthusiastic to give. They want to share. They want to help others. Our world is usually a bit smaller. Right? We are more concerned about ourselves, but they are very much concerned about others, and they see the suffering of others. That's why they want to extend themselves. They want to help. And for them, it's quite natural. They just want to do that. And for us, there is. I guess there is different extremes. One extreme is to become completely idle, to just lay down and do nothing, and the other one is to be very passionate and trying to do everything at the same time. So we have to find balance there. I agree. But it's good to reflect on how well time is, and I think the goal of this presentation, if I'm successful with the presentation, would be that everyone walks out and start to think, okay, how can I maybe give a little bit more time to Krishna in my life? That would be my request. If you can think, okay, we hear about time, and it seems that time is very important and valuable, how can I give a little bit more? Because, as I said, time, we have 24 hours every day. How much of the 24 hours do we give to Krishna? To really give to Krishna. You know, so much time we spend for ourselves and for so many others, but how much time we actually just dedicate to Krishna? That's just an expression of gratitude, because everything we have comes from Krishna, so why not give some time to him? So let us give a little more time. That would be nice. Yes?
Thank you. Can I give a little comment?
Please.
I think it's relevant to your question also. Like when we give time to Krishna, because he is time, he says in Bhagavad Gita, I am time. So if we give time priority, maybe the first time in the day, we chant, it's very mystical how Krishna is making everything fall into place. Like we struggle with our mind and our bodies, like maybe the whole day, maybe give time to Krishna in the end. If we give time to Krishna in the morning, this is my experience, and many others also, then everything is like, he's the mastermind, so he's like giving a good cosmic flow for us. So it's
beautiful
really
point. I just repeat because on that one continue. Krishna gives a good cosmic flow because Krishna is time. When we give time to Krishna, because Krishna is time, he will give time back in a sense. The time that we have will all mystically, everything will fall in
we have
place.
more time, but we have only 4 hours, like you say, but somehow it feels...
Beautiful point, thank you so much.
I would like to add,
Yes.
I would like to add what she said. It's very difficult for each one of us to give separately some time to Krishna. That's what we are struggling. But rather thinking about like this, we should think that the activities we are doing the whole day is for Krishna. And then it will become a little different. Your perspective will change, and then you will not think that I'm not giving separately any time to Krishna, but what I'm doing here is for Krishna.
Beautiful, beautiful. We spoke about the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. One is kala, one is karma, and it falls into that, of course, bhakti. But our activities, with what consciousness we do our activity. If in the beginning of the day we wake up and said, Krishna, whatever I do today, all my thoughts, all my words, all my activities today, I will offer it to you. And whatever I do, I want to do it to give pleasure to you. And if this is our consciousness, then the whole day is Krishna conscious day where we actually give to Krishna. Yeah, that's certainly true.
Thank you.
Great, I think that's a very wonderful closing point. Thank you very much for giving your time and coming to the Krishna temple, even on a beautiful sunny day, on a Sunday, is always a good way to spend your time. Please do come back again, and hopeful to see you some other time. Hare Krishna.
Grace Krishna Premarupa ki jai. Thank you very much, Krishna Premarupa, for this inspiring class and making us aware of the value of time. And so 5 o'clock is the time for prasadam, and it's also very valuable time because prasadam is a very merciful aspect of how we can get in contact with Krishna. And also after that, 6:15, we will go on here in the temple room with the workshop. And if any of you is inspired to spend their time with service, practical activity, to get that enthusiasm Prabhu will speak about also, please do not hesitate. We have a lot of services to be done in the temple, and you can just approach me or anybody walking around to help us in the kitchen and all around. Thank you very much for coming. Have a wonderful festival. Hare Krishna.